You're listening to Systemic Era Podcast. The failure was designed.
Why Martyr latest Supreme Court freak out is especially galling. Even for them, based on an article by Thomas Keeker. Trump lost on birthright citizenship. The right still tried to make Barrett pay. The real story was the attempt. The headline is not that Donald Trump took a legal loss. The headline is that he tried to force the Supreme Court to let him rewrite birthright citizenship without Congress, which means trying to sidestep the Constitution when the Constitution is inconvenient. Legal experts across the spectrum called it what it was: blatantly unconstitutional. That is the center of the story, not the court's etiquette, not the hurt feelings of martyr commentators, not the performance of outrage after the fact. Trump used presidential power to test whether the 14th Amendment could be treated like a suggestion. Power sat with Trump and his movement. The institutional power here was never with Amy Coney Barrett. It was with Trump, the political movement that installed him, and the conservative infrastructure that keeps laundering anti-democratic ambitions through courts and media. Barrett was one of 3 justices Trump appointed, which is exactly why her vote mattered to his base. But the broader fact is more important to the right. Spent years building a judiciary designed to indulge reactionary power, and then got angry when one of its own jurists refused to obey every demand. That is not betrayal of democracy by Barrett. It is the movement discovering that capture is not identical to total control. Barrett became the convenient target. The backlash aimed at Barrett is revealing because it is so obviously selective. The source notes that Neil Gorsuch joined her and the liberal majority earlier this year to strike down Trump's tariffs, yet the fury here concentrates on Barrett. That is not about legal principle. It is about punishment. Once again, conservative grievance politics needs a woman to absorb the rage while men escape scrutiny. The insults do not merely show misogyny, they show discipline. A woman judge can be tolerated only if she performs subordination. The moment she exercises independent judgment, she is recoded as illegitimate, a DEI hire, a fraud, a traitor. The movement's anti-elite rhetoric always arrives at the same destination: obedience to male authority. The framing is conveniently small. Susan Del Percio is right to call out the ugliness of the attacks, but the frame stays too small if this is treated mainly as a story about decency on the bench. Judicial dignity is not the issue. The issue is that a political movement tried to smash a constitutional guarantee and then redirected attention toward the justice who helped stop it. That is classic misdirection. The weaker target is easier to vilify than the stronger actor who initiated the damage. Barrett becomes the spectacle, while Trump's constitutional vandalism becomes background noise. The misogyny is real, but it is also functional. It helps the right avoid confronting the actual project, which is authoritarian statecraft through courts, not just partisan grievance on cable. A 5-4 warning, not a vindication. The 5-4 split should not inspire comfort. It should raise alarms. A ruling that obvious should not have needed to be close. The fact that a narrow majority was enough to stop Trump does not mean the legal system is healthy. It means the court remains one vote away from accommodating extremism under the right conditions. That is the structural problem. When one faction can repeatedly treat constitutional limits as obstacles to be engineered around, democracy is already operating on defense. The court can block one maneuver, but it cannot substitute for a political system willing to confront the coalition trying to turn law into a weapon against equal citizenship. The pattern is bigger than Barrett. This story is not about whether conservatives should do better. They know exactly what they are doing. They are building a politics of domination, then acting offended when one of their own instruments does not perform complete loyalty. The larger pattern is simple. Trump pushes an authoritarian aim. The movement rallies around it. And when the attempt fails, the outrage machine looks for a convenient scapegoat that keeps the public focused on personalities and insults instead of the underlying project. The real conflict is not between Trump and Barrett. It is between constitutional democracy and a right wing that keeps trying to hollow it out, one institutional pressure test at a time. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to AltaNet for today's article. With it automated voice of Bryce. Thanks for listening.